All systems go. So welcome everyone. This is Dave DeBow and welcome to tonight's presentation. I'm very excited about this because it is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that's all about doing joint ventures. And our special guest presenter tonight is Mr. Jay Fizzett, who according to my computer is sitting right up above me there on the screen, but depending on how your computer looks, he's a good-looking guy out of the two that are on the webcam here. So how are you doing tonight, Jay?
I am fantastic, Dave. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really looking forward to this.
Well, I am too. So Jay's in Calgary. I'm in Kamloops. You guys are all over the place. So just before we get started, just to get a little idea of where everybody's calling in from, go ahead and just to get practiced up, type in the question box where you're visiting us from tonight on tonight's presentation so we can send a quick little shout out to everybody and see how you're doing. So we got Tyler from Edmonton, Barry from Fort Mac. Good to see you, Tyler and Barry. Tyler, long time no see, buddy. Where else is everybody coming in from? Oh, Adam from Vernon. Good to see you, Adam. Looking forward to our talk next week. And Tyler's going a big high five. Jennifer from Edmonton, Dan from Vernon. Wow, this is a lot of people from the Okanagan. Alex from Barrie. Finally, somebody from out east. Welcome, Alex. So welcome everybody that's coming in on the call. We're just getting things started here with this presentation. Again, I'm Dave DeBow, and our special guest presenter tonight is Mr. Jay Fizzett. And I'm going to read Jay's bio because I like it, and he's done a better job right that I can making it up on the fly.
This might in fact be an anti-bio, but it's sort of how it goes for me.
You know, you're talking to a fellow smartass, so I think people will appreciate this. So, Jay Fizzett, best-selling author, student of human nature, avid outdoorsman at five-star hotels. With you there, brother. Speaks fluent smartass, can see and reflect your life mission in 5 minutes flat, loves having two sons so he can play with their toys, still fantasizes about his wife after 25 years. Good on you. Loves ideas, but loves results even more. Can simultaneously laugh and cry for different reasons at the same time. That's a special talent. That is a special talent. Has never been starstruck, but did not get a chance to meet Martin Luther King, and there would have been teenage girls screaming if he had. All right, I love that. I'm dedicated to instigating a global movement of conscious creators and supporting people to organize their life and resources around their passions and gifts. Sounds like fun. That is a very in-depth background that you've got. Jay and I actually connected years and years ago, probably 10, maybe 11 years ago, when I was working with Darren Weeks in Fast Track. And Jay was one of the first people that I did one of my Audio Success CD interviews with about his book, Reframe Your Blame, way back in the day. So I'm not sure if you remember that or not, Jay, but that's when we first connected.
Well, you know what? It's one of those things where when we have a conversation, it's like, and I begin to connect the dots. I remember Darren introducing me to a couple of people. I remember doing a couple of recordings, and at that stage of the game, the honest goodness truth was I could not have been more clueless on the topic of joint ventures. And I can absolutely say that doing that first sort of project with Darren and some of the stuff that you and I did together in that process was the beginning of me beginning to go, wait a second, there's something here. I've been working too hard doing it on my own. Yeah. So, it's cool that we get to reconnect this way, and I really appreciate you having us.
Well, you've made up for lost time, that's for sure, my friend. So you figured the whole JV thing out, and you've skyrocketed by. So I just want to let everybody who's on the call know that we're going to be diving in depth into joint ventures. And a lot of people who are on the call are thinking about joint ventures from a real estate point of view, which all of this does apply for real estate and real estate investing. And Jay's also going to be going in depth in how joint ventures apply for more traditional businesses and for things like what Jay and I do, which are training and information marketing and that sort of thing as well. So I know personally, Jay, we were talking about this prior to starting the call, that joint ventures have been the biggest business influence in my life since the year 2006, which is when I started my original joint venture with Darren Weeks and Fast Track. So that's how long I've been doing it. I remember years and years before that, I read or actually listened to an audio program by Jay Abraham, as you're probably very familiar with. And that kind of got me thinking about joint ventures, but I never really did much with it. Then fast forward to about the year 2005, a gentleman named Robin Elliott was running around the country doing events about joint ventures and things like that. Went to one of those and it just re-sparked my interest. And that's when I first approached Darren Weeks about the whole idea of doing a joint venture, which at that time was to create a membership program for his workshop and event attendees. And that's what I interviewed you for, was part of it.
Now, was Robin, quick question, and this is just sort of my going back in time, was Robin Elliott, was he like a New Zealander or an Aussie fellow?
South African guy.
South Africa, yes. In fact, so just out of weirdness and oddities, his, I think it was called Joint Venture Adventures or JV Adventures or some version thereof. It was one of the very first ebooks I ever bought in my life.
Really?
Was that ebook, yes. How weird is that?
That is weird, isn't it? Yeah, it's funny how it all goes around in circles, for sure. So that initial joint venture that I did with Darren Weeks turned into, for a while, a very, very large membership program. We had at one point 2,000 people as active members in that membership, paying anywhere from $20 to $40 a month for their membership. That led on to multiple different things that I did with Darren for about 7 or 8 years. And then ever since then, you know, pretty much like I was telling you off camera, Jay, that about half of my business to this very day is joint ventures. And in fact, that's what we're doing here tonight.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, I really appreciate, number one, that background and us reconnecting. And I, you know, as we go through this, you may well have more experience at JVs than I do. So and at any point in time as we go through this, Dave, I mean, you just jump in and share your perspective or clarify any questions or any points. You know,
I don't agree with you, but I think you've probably got a lot more experience, but I appreciate that. So what we're going to do, you guys, is Jay has prepared a presentation for us. So I'm going to let him have full control with his man, Rob, who's helping out with the techie side of things. And I'm going to sit back. I noticed that you had a glass of wine. I'm a beer kind of guy, so I'm going to have a Heineken. And
look, it's empty.
And then I'll just mute myself. And then what we'll do, you guys, feel free to type in any questions that you have in the, well, let me ask this. Rob, what do you prefer? Do you prefer the question box or the chat box? What works better for you? Let us know, and we'll have people put their comments and stuff in there. I usually do the question box, but whichever works better for you. So Rob, what do you prefer, the question box or the chat box?
Question box is perfect.
Question box is perfect. So Jay's got a very interactive presentation for us tonight, so I highly encourage you to put everything into this. You know, turn off the Facebook, turn off the tweets and the Twitters and all that kind of crap, and you know, quit watching YouTube and just focus exclusively for the next little while on this presentation, because I tell you, just one JV can completely revolutionize your business life, as it has for me. So I'm going to mute myself because you've heard enough of me, that's for damn sure. And I'll even turn off the camera because you know, Jay's a way better looking guy, so I don't like the comparison. And off we go.
Well, and I was going to just post a picture of my wife because she's better looking than both of us. It'll probably be a much more interesting webinar. So, gang, a couple of things. Rob, I just wanted to let you know that I cannot, for whatever reason, see the questions here. So, Rob, I'm just going to make a request of you, is that if there is a question or a comment or something that I can respond to, if you can maybe just Facebook it to me or text it to me. I've got my phone beside me, or I don't know how we're going to do that, and I'm not really sure why I can't see that message, or perhaps you could send it to me altogether there. So we have, and I want to be very serious about this, gang, we have enough content and there's enough to teach you that we could be here for 2.5 months. I promise you that will not be the case, because I have another interview basically at 8:30, so we're going to hustle and motor. So a couple of things that I want to tell you about tonight's presentation, and I want to echo what Dave said, is I invite you to actually engage with this piece here, because I don't want to talk at you. I want us to have a conversation. Now, it's a little bit harder when I can't. Oh, there we go. I'll send questions. So Rob, if you can just send the questions right there, then I can put that in. Now, I'm curious to know, and I'm not sure how we're going to summarize this. You know what? Just give me 1 second, just for the purposes of trying to figure this out. Give me one moment. I chat. I can see all the things in chat. Organizers. Panelists. Okay. So, Rob, if you can just put them there, that would be fantastic. And what I'm curious to know, gang, is how many of you have done a joint venture in the past? So if you have done a joint venture in the past, just type in JV. Now, I'm going to ask you, just because you've done a joint venture in the past doesn't mean you necessarily want to do one again, because joint ventures come in lots of different ranges. There is the, choir of angels singing. It's like, oh, Dave gave a great example of that. There's also the JVs that are much like a visit to hell, and you get a little burned. And so I'm interested, type in JV if you've done a JV, put a plus sign beside it if it's been like a positive, meaningful, significant experience, put a minus sign or any other alternative comment you'd like to make if it wasn't exactly what you were hoping for. Because the truth of the matter is this, is that I fervently believe that JVs are absolutely the fastest, easiest, and most joyful way to scale your business quickly, and please hear this, at little or no cost, as long as you know what you're doing. So I want to I'm going to play a little animation for you, which I really quite love. So we have a brand, and there's actually 3 different brands that I run and operate. You heard Dave refer to my best-selling book, Reframe Your Blame, How to Be Personally Accountable. That was a book that I wrote while I was running my core company called Personal Best Seminars, which is then we rebranded to the Creators Code. And to put it in perspective, we have about 40,000 people who have participated in our personal development programs. It was a great success, did that for the better part of a quarter century. Then after that, I decided I was going to learn internet marketing, which I'll tell you more about momentarily. And a part of that process was I started attending joint venture summits. I started hosting my own joint venture summit, which we called the BAMP JV Summit. And that evolved into this brand, which I truly, genuinely love. And you can see the little logo playing over, which is called JVology, which is the perfect mix of people, fun, and profit. And that's the way I'd like you to think about this entire process. And when we think of it from this idea that we get to have a ton of fun, we get to serve and support people that we love, we get to create great value, and we get to make money serving and supporting people to live their mission. Many times we don't actually have to deliver the product. We get to have a really significant, powerful piece. We got a bunch of JV responses, all pluses, and Tyler, I totally get that. A plus sign with a good learning curve, yes. And I got to tell you, to put that in perspective, and I'll share with you more about it, is that at the early stages, I didn't fully comprehend the implications of great joint ventures. And I went from not fully comprehending it, doing some early stuff, even back with Dave and with Darren Weeks that made a little bit of money, but it was like a little sideline, a little thought on the periphery of my business. And that has evolved into something quite radically different and dramatic, which I'm going to tell you all about as we go along here. So our topic tonight is the art and science of 6 and even 7-figure joint ventures. And what I'd love to know a little bit about, again, the audience here, is how many of you have made, let's say, and I'm going to start low, and by the way, there's no right answer to this, no wrong answer to this. A couple of years ago, I just said that, my number was about here. But if you've made 4 figures in JVs, just type in 4 plus. If you've made 5 figures, type in 5 plus. If you've made 6 figures, type in 6 plus. If you made 7 figures, type in 7 plus. And what I want you to understand is this, is that it doesn't matter where you start. But if you can set a strategy, which I'm going to help you with tonight, if you can set a strategy, if you can put your energy and your direction into the proper way of thinking and being in joint ventures, these are absolutely easy, and I mean that, easy ways to scale a business quickly, well past 7 figures. And I have friends and people who I'll actually show you in this presentation, who their JV income alone is in excess of 7 figures a year. Now, anybody here be interested in having JV income alone? This is work that you don't have to deliver. You just get to help sell and connect people. If you'd like that to be in the 7 figures plus, type in a hell yeah so I can get a sense of your commitment and interest in this process. So on that note, I want to just give you a 2-second rundown about me. First and foremost, this is me. This is my family. This is my lovely wife, Corey. She and I are high school sweethearts, which means that we have been together for 30 years. We are coming, actually it's 30, closer to 32. We're coming up on our 22nd year anniversary. And, we had a whirlwind fast romance of, raced to the altar in a decade, which seemed very fast to me at the time. And then these are our 2 boys on the right. This is Wyatt. And Wyatt, you can sort of perhaps even see from his, from the look on his face, Wyatt is slightly mischievous. And he is 11 going on 22. And then this is Jackson here. Jackson had his 7th birthday just 3 days ago. And he's still cute. It's before they think they're 22. So I consider myself incredibly blessed. This is a picture that was taken on one of our family holidays to Hawaii. We literally just got off the cruise ship on a Disney cruise. And what I want you to know is that a lot of our freedom is created by our dedication to long-term joint ventures. Now, one of the things that I want you to be perfectly clear about, though, at the intro part, sometimes people tell a whole bunch of stories about how great their life is and all the rest of it. And I think that I should also start with a confession, which is, yes, I've been with my dear and lovely wife for 32 years, but the reality is I also have a mistress. And I thought if I was going to introduce you to my family, I should probably introduce you to my mistress as well. So here she is. Yes. It's a car, and just to be clear about it, the car is the car was named the mistress by my dear wife, and my mistress and my dear wife get along really, really quite well. And by the way, if you don't think that's funny, here's the other part that is that tonight some of the jokes are just for me. But the part of the reason why I show you this, and I actually got this, which Darren Weeks would have a aneurysm with this. And the old license plate he used to have of doodad on the back of his Mercedes, he would chuckle with. But here's the honest God truth: is that I'm a car fan, and one of my very first joint ventures in my life was a joint venture that I negotiated. My dear best friend Fritz, he and I are still best friends. My best friend Fritz, we're 13 years old, by the way. He's 14, and my dad, who had a garage in a rural part of Saskatchewan, so we put together farm equipment. I negotiated JV to take this old Chevelle that didn't have an engine, and I secured an engine and got that put together, and we sold it, and I got Dad to hold on to the bill for putting the new engine in. And when we sold it, Fritz and I each made $600. And we thought that we had won the lottery. And, I'm 50. Do the quick math in terms of how many years ago that was. $600 to a 13-year-old kid, it wasn't bad. But the honest to God truth about that is that first car got parlayed into a series of collector's cars that when I was 50, I decided I was going to reward myself with a new car because I've been importing and restoring Porsches. It's how I paid for my university. It's how I paid for a variety of things. I decided I was going to reward myself. So this is the reward. And again, it was joint ventures between my dear friend Fritz and a variety of other things along the way that allowed me to go and get the car, pay for it, and be done with it, which was a pretty cool experience. Anyway, so I have a love of all things automotive and all of those pieces. Now, this is a picture that was actually taken of me when I decided to do something that was a little bit crazy. And what it was this, is that I had this business called Personal Best Seminars, which was rebranded to Creators Code years later. And that business in Alberta, in the year that I decided that I wanted to do something different, that business was doing about $2.7 million a year. And but it had a bunch of staff, and it had a bunch of fixed expenses, and had a bunch of these sorts of things. And I had talked to a bunch of people, and I'd done some research about this thing called internet marketing. And what seemed abundantly clear, that I got seduced by this idea, that if I could just stay at home in my fuzzy slippers, drink my coffee, and send a couple of emails, I will clearly make tens of millions of dollars. I can't even say that with a straight face. So I let go of my staff. I licensed my content to another person in Edmonton. I then embark on this journey of internet marketing, which, you know, I know it can't be that hard to do because I've seen some of the people doing it. It can't be rocket science. But here's what occurs. In very short order, my sales of $2.7 million shrink to about $250,000. And it was after probably almost 2 years of that experience that I posed for this picture, and they took this shot of me raking in the millions, sending a couple of emails. Now, obviously, I'm poking a little fun at myself, but the part I want you to really understand is that I went into the online marketing world much like how I did the rest of my business at that stage, which is I will do it on my own and I will figure it out on my own. And 2 years later, it's not working. And I am frustrated and I'm having a very difficult time. And that's where I was invited to a gentleman named Christian Michelson. And I don't know if you know who Christian Michelson is, just type in yes for Christian Michelson. So Christian Michelson invited me to a joint venture summit in San Diego. And here was my ignorance at the time. And I do mean ignorance. He described it to me. He sent me the email. He said who was going to be there. It was $5,000. I looked at it and I was like, that looks stupid. I don't want to do that. I'll just go back to struggling on my own. Thank you very much. And you know, raking in the money from my modeling jobs that, you know, how this picture came about. And I continue to struggle. Please understand this, for another year. The event comes up again, and I'm invited again. And here's what I don't realize is that, and I don't find this out till after, is that here's a whole lineup of people that want access to this room, that want access to these people, that want access to this kind of support and community. And here I am, like a dumbass, saying, no, I don't want to do that. It sounds ridiculous. So the second time I'm invited, I talked to a dear friend of mine, Brian, and he says, for crying out loud, just go. Just go and figure out what the hell they're talking about. So I go there, and I truly feel like a fish out of water. And I was like, the best way I could describe it is like I'm in a dark room, feeling around, hoping I'm going to find a light switch somewhere. But it doesn't take me long to observe there are some really smart people in the marketing world. They don't have anywhere near the resources I have in terms of content. They don't have anywhere near the experience I have in business. At that stage, again, I've been at it for 25 years. Many of these people were like 18 months in. And these people were making 7 figures, often selling one freaking product. And my judgment at the time was, look, these one-note tunes, if they can sell 7 figures, for crying out loud, I've got to be able to figure this thing out. So here's what I do, and one of the things I want to invite each of you to do. And I'm not telling you this story, by the way, just for fun and entertainment. There's a very important lesson here, which is, number 1, do not be a dumbass like I was and say no to support that can scale your business incredibly quickly. Okay, so if you ever get an invitation into one of those rooms, for crying out loud, say yes. Now, the next piece of that is, the other part that was vitally important was this, was that I threw myself into learning with and through every single one of the people that I resonated with in that room. What that meant was I dedicated myself to being a great JV partner. Now, in our presentation tonight, I'm going to teach you a bunch of those pieces, exactly how to do it. I threw myself into being a great JV partner. I threw myself into actually building relationships. I threw myself into contributing. I threw myself into just putting myself in the position of student. And this is one of the things when I said, Dave, you know, you might have more experience. I mean that in all seriousness. Like, I am perpetually learning, and I put myself in experiences where I learn all the time. I travel to the events all the time, not just as a speaker, but as a participant. Like, it's one of the most important things in the universe. So anyway, I go to this event. I throw myself into this support process, and a small miracle occurs. And that small miracle is this. And I, number 1, discover what it means to build a list. I, number 1, in that year, where I'm just supporting other people, I make strong 6 figures as a JV partner with a tiny, tiny, tiny list. I end up on a bunch, well, frankly, every launch that I participated in, I ended up on the leaderboard. And my list, when I started, was like 1,800 people. And I was often up against people that had lists of 50,000, 80,000, 100,000, in some cases 130,000. And I'm outperforming them. And when all of that was done, it led me to one particular piece, and it led me to starting a brand that is called Mastermind to Millions. And that Mastermind to Millions brand, and this is what I want you to understand, is that I went from not having a clue about this to throwing myself into learning about stuff, to building a brand called Mastermind to Millions, which has a digital product, which has a live event, and which has a a premium coaching program. And that one piece, and this was all done through joint venture, I want you to understand, that one piece in 14 months took us from a standing start to almost $2.6 million US in sales. Now, I can tell you, if I can do it, so can you. Now, it's all well and fine for me to tell you this, but honestly, I'd like you just to watch a little video here that I have, which is a video of one of our Mastermind to Millions events, and it'll contextualize what it means to go from standing start to 2.6 million
online
flat.
or virtual training has its place in the whole mix, but doesn't ever take the place of live interaction.
Being able to sit there and structure and write down what I want my mastermind to look like.
What makes this event really unique is not only does Jay teach how to put on masterminds, but you get to experience what's it like in a mastermind setting.
It's been a combination of lecture, interactive activities, as well as enough breaks for us to network with other people in the community, as well as tabletop exercises where we can talk to our neighbor and change to another table. They've done a really excellent job of producing an event.
So Jay and Joshua is like the absolute dream team. They complement each other so well. If I'm opening a new business line or a new area in the business, I'll always go and find the world expert in that particular area. I looked around and I found Jay was the world expert in masterminds, so there's no better way than to learn from the best.
What I think distinguishes Jay is his attention to detail and the amount that he cares. When you ask something, he will address it, and he will address it until it is done and until you are satisfied with the answer.
How often he would pause, he would stop, he would help somebody, he would take a question from the audience, answer that person's question, and then broaden the lesson, so it applied to me.
He opened up the chest and said, this is how I do this. These are my secrets. Go do this yourself. Just so generously, you just don't see that. People saying, here, I want you to be successful, so committed to our success at a high level that he gave us all his tools.
He is just so natural. He is just so good on stage.
This is who he is. This is who you see on and off the stage, and he really genuinely cares about me.
I love Jay's sense of humor. I love his quirkiness, his weirdness, and it trickles through the organization. Joshua is just like super amazing at marketing and lead generation.
He's also an amazing and incredible speaker as well, and his knowledge of the internet and how to leverage business systems and how to create different scalable models so you can have the lifestyle that you want.
They actually gave you what they promised to give you, which that's not been my experience at seminars before at all.
The energy in the room was amazing. It's evident that they're surrounded by people who are absolutely loving, committed.
The people that are here are kind of coming together to all support and nurture one another in their dreams and visions and even their bank accounts. So it's fantastic.
Jay framed it that we were here to find resources and to be resources to each other every break. It was constant conversations with other people.
People here care, they're mission driven, they're heart centered, they want to make a difference, and they're also really business focused as well.
The bottom line of all of it is love and standing for the best in people.
I had originally thought that it was going to be a really big deal to do a mastermind. I thought that it would take me a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of preparation. And the coolest takeaway I have is that I can do a beta mastermind with only 10 people and do that from a place of expertise.
Learning that mastermind can be super fun, like fun enough to go out and just have wine and have a party, make it fun.
I now have the blueprint, not just like a free opt-in, here's 6 steps you can do. I have the full manual of how to create a successful mastermind.
If you're looking to create a mastermind, there is seriously no one better in the world than Jay Bissett to support you in that goal.
So gang, the purpose of me sharing, oh, stop, I don't know why I'm doing that. The purpose of me sharing that is very simple and straightforward, is that sometimes when, how do I put this? I'm gonna say this as clearly as I can and as straight as I can, which is this. Sometimes when you're in a situation to learn from someone, is that they are teaching something that they just learned last week, and that their results are only a half a step ahead of yours or any of those pieces. And I share this with you so that you get a sense of, quite literally, only 18 months ago, this event and this business model did not frankly exist. And through strategic joint venture partners, this room got filled. Our online program was sold out. We ran 3 launches, and we cranked strong 7 figures, please understand this, from a standing start. And my point is simply this: if I can do it, you can do it, and I am not blowing smoke or exaggerating results in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I'm quite frankly underplaying them. But I want you to know that what I'm about to share with you in terms of the key pieces of building JVs, not only do I live and breathe, but it is also one of the foundations of all 3 of my brands. I don't, lots of times people are making money teaching coaches how to coach, but they don't have any real coaching clients. They're just teaching coaches how to coach, if that makes any sense to you. So that's the reason why I share that with you, and I just think it's incredibly important. Come on, let's get moving here. So on that note, gang, here's where I'm going to ask you to take out your pen and paper. I'm going to ask you to open up a clean sheet of paper or a clean document on your screen, and we are going to get moving and shaking and teaching the 3 keys that I need you to really wrap your head and heart around to succeed at joint ventures. And good Lord, man, I want you all to succeed. Now, top of the list is this, is the abundance mindset. And many times people talk about this, but I want you to, we're going to do a bunch more work about it. But I give you my word, the single greatest reason why people struggle with succeeding in joint ventures is that they do not truly and genuinely hold an abundance mindset. So I'm going to talk more about that momentarily. The next piece is relationships of contribution. And the honest to goodness truth is this, is you cannot, please hear this, you cannot have real relationships of contribution without an abundance mindset. Because all of the little contributions, all those sorts of things, if you're not truly from abundance grounding, come with a little hook, come with a little condition, come with this little sort of feeling of something being not quite exactly on or authentic. And then the final part is great clarity of what your motives are in the joint venture. And depending on what step and stage you are at in your business, you might be really dedicated at, look, I've got to scale my list. I need to build that asset and that resource of a list, of a community, of a tribe, of a group of people for me to communicate with. Or it could be that I have a decent list, but I'm sitting in a position where I'm sort of like an also-ran. I don't have the influence that I'd like to actually have, where it's like I've got to actually take myself from being an also-ran and I need to be one of the leaders in the industry. Or it could simply be this, is that my list is kicking butt. I'm not interested in the influence piece. I just, perhaps want to be the puppet master from behind, or perhaps my influence is already off the charts. And what I really want to do is plain old make money. And please understand, I am good with all of those things, but it's vitally important that you see and you understand what your motive is right now. So gang, what I'm going to ask you to do just before we dive further into the abundance mindset, if you were to look at from where you're at right now in your business, do you need to focus most significantly on list building? Do you need to focus most significantly on increasing your influence? Or do you need to focus most significantly on monetization? I'm going to ask every single one of you, gang, all of you, I want you to respond to this, and Rob will update me on what's going on. So just type in list, influence, or monetization. What is the spot that you are at right now that you require the support and the assistance with? And Rob will fill us in and we'll continue on with that. But I'm going to dive into the abundance mindset first. Now, and obviously where the Venn diagram comes together, and if you ever do further work for me, you'll know that I really love a good Venn diagram. So you'll probably see more of those from me. But it is where these 3 come together, where we have outstanding joint ventures. Now, there's a famous quote which I completely love, which is this: out of abundance, he took abundance, and abundance still remained. This quote, by the way, is quite literally about 3,000 years old, like it predates Jesus. So it's beautiful, it's astounding, and it's a little bit of, peace and joy and rainbow and unicorns and, a ray of light shining down upon us. So I love the idea of it. The son of a you-know-what about it is this, is that for most human beings, it's not the reality. We can talk about it, we can feel great about saying it, we can think about it, but here's the reality, is that the majority of people on planet Earth are not most powerfully motivated by abundance. The majority of people on this planet are actually motivated by something radically different. And by the way, gang, I would love to know what you think most people are motivated by. All right, influence and monetization are our most powerful bits of feedback in terms of where you guys are at. So help me out here and answer the question of what do you think the majority of people on planet Earth are actually truly motivated by? And I'm just going to ask you to belt it out. I'm going to actually pause for a moment because I don't want to give it away. I want to hear where you guys are at with this. What's truly driving the vast majority of people on planet Earth? Most likely, what's truly driving you? If we peel away from the stories and the justification and the looking good for our clients, looking good for our family members, looking good for our peers, looking good for our joint venture partners, all those sorts of things. And by the way, any of you, if any of you have read, and we'll talk more about this momentarily, if any of you have read Influence by Robert Cialdini, which everyone should read, you'll have a pretty strong hint about what's going on here. So I'm just going to pause for a moment waiting for answers are greed, money, self, what's in it for me, freedom, fear, and joy. Short version, some great answers there. When we peel away all of the stories around it, here's what it boils down to. Number one, fear. And please understand this, it is motivated more by the fear of loss, okay, than the promise of gain. Study after study after study says that's what's going on. We're motivated by pain. If something hurts, we want it to go away. But please understand this, most people are only motivated to the level of the absence of pain. They actually aren't motivated to the experience of joy, which is quite fascinating. And they are motivated by lack or scarcity. These are the three drivers. And what I want you to understand here, I'm not talking about this for fun and entertainment while we're talking about joint ventures. I'm talking about this is that each of us is deeply genetically encoded with these three pieces. And we're deeply genetically encoded with these three pieces for one reason and one reason only. It's how we survived as cavemen. It's how we navigated our way through staying alive on this crazy planet when, you know, half the carnivores of size were trying to have us for an afternoon snack. And this actually served an incredibly powerful purpose. But it is exactly what screws us up from being good JV partners and from bringing our, I'm going to say, our whole selves and our vision to joint ventures. So here's the thing about this, is that if we understand this whole thing of fear, scarcity, and lack, and we take another look at a truth, which is joint venturing is a game of I will go first, those two things kind of butt heads. Those two things do not necessarily go along with one another because we're concerned about what will transpire if we go first. We're concerned of what if I give first and I don't receive. We're concerned about it's like, well, my business isn't actually doing as much as I'd like, so if I put some energy over here, that might actually distract me. And if we have all of these silly stories. So I want you to just think about the difference in grounding in terms of abundance versus scarcity. And I'm going to give you an assignment, by the way, as we go through this a little bit further. Abundance versus scarcity. Here is what somebody who has a scarcity grounding thinks. What is the smallest percentage I can pay and get people to play? And I've had people on the call, well, on a multitude of calls with me say, okay, so what I was thinking is that I'd like to get people to mail my product. I'd like to get people to really play and go all out. And I was wondering if I could get them to do it for as little as 25%. And my advice to them is always, don't be a cheap ass. And in the same breath, by the way, when people call me, and there's a very dear friend of mine who I will leave her name out of it, was like, I want you to play. And it's like, I won't play because you're being cheap. You are absolutely being cheap. It is 30%. And yours is primarily a digital product. If you're not willing to pay 50, I'm not willing to play, not because of any other reason than you are coming from a scarcity perspective, is that I want this to be a win both ways. So lots of people think, what's the smallest percentage I can pay and get people to play? But I would ask you to consider a different perspective altogether, which is, how could you pay them more than they've ever earned as an affiliate? Think that through for a second. If you were in the perspective of bringing together a group of people who were going to be great JV partners, and your objective was to pay them more than they've ever earned elsewhere, is that a different feeling? Is that a different energy? Is that going to attract a different quality of JV partner? And the answer to that question is, hell yes. In our first 3 launches for the Launch Your Mastermind 90-Day Bootcamp, and that's that program that filled the event, the video I just showed you, we had Justin Livingston, Bill Barron, Lisa Sasevich, Ryan Levesque, Ryan Eliason, Ted McGrath, like a bunch of the major players in that entire field. We had them all on board engaged with us. we didn't attract them by trying to figure out what was the least we could pay. So this is an example of where people trip over dollars to try to pick up pennies. So take the grounding of abundance. And if this is making sense to you and you understand what I'm getting at, give me a hell yeah for abundance. So type in a hell yeah so I know you're with me. I want to give you another example. When we're talking about abundance versus scarcity, ask this question, particularly when it's coming to attracting JV partners, particularly when it's coming to wowing our clients, is what would be an amazing contribution? An amazing contribution versus what's the most I can get for the least inputs. Now, in this case, when I say the least inputs, I'm not talking about just the percentage that we're being paid. When I'm talking about the inputs, I'm talking about investing in the actual relationship. I'm talking about going above and beyond to serve somebody's tribe. I'm talking about making things as easy as they could possibly be. I'm talking about, the little details of even sometimes we've gone as far as putting the links in the swipe copy. There's a bunch of ways to do this. So I want you just to think about it and these are just 2 examples. I could, by the way, give you 10,000 of them, but I want you to start thinking that if ever you catch yourself coming from this position of scarcity, what I can tell you already is that your JVs are in jeopardy. Your JVs are in jeopardy. You will not attract the quality of partner that you want. They're not going to act on your behalf as you would like them to actually act. And your rewards, and that I'm talking about the financial rewards, I'm talking about the client rewards, I'm talking about all those things, are going to absolutely suffer. So on that note, here's what I believe. And I'm going to go through this part a little bit quickly, and then I'm going to ask you to do a little activity for me. This idea of lack is deeply embedded. The truth of the matter is that most small businesses actually struggle. They don't do particularly well. All you have to do is look at the stats of the failure rates. A lot of it due to this scarcity piece. Now, this is so powerful that it is one of the 6 triggers of influence in the seminal book, Influence, by Robert Cialdini. I mean, it is that deeply encoded. And honest to goodness, so long as we're focused on this not enough, we are doomed to stay stuck in our life and in our business. Now, my history is personal development. I wrote a best-selling book, Reframe Your Blame, How to Be Personally Accountable. That was a whole process around personal development. Now, what I want you to understand is that it's my opinion that our own businesses are the universe's most perfectly designed personal development program. But I want to take that a step further. Part of our job as human beings is this: to do our own work, to break free from that old, deep encoding that leads us to lack of consciousness and struggle and all of those pieces. And being a great joint venture partner is the assignment that can cure your scarcity issues, not just with money, not just with business, but in relationships, in health, in time, in freedom, all those pieces, when it is approached consciously and clearly. So on that note, here's what I want you to consider, is that for you to truly do well at joint ventures, you must let go of, I have in brackets ideally, but you must let go of, or at least postpone the thought of what can you do for me, which is where that whole ground rule of joint venturing is. Joint venturing is a game of I'll go first. And I should be very clear about where I got that idea, because that was an idea that I R&D'd. There was a woman named Cherie Carter Scott who I interviewed for a television series I hosted years ago. And she wrote a book called Love is a Game of I'll Go First. And it was like, man, that really landed and resonated for me. Because how often do relationships experience friction? How often do relationships get diminished because we're waiting for the other person to change? We're waiting for the other person to say something. We're waiting for the other person to be how we want them to be. So if love is a game of I'll go first, if I'm trying to actually develop a meaningful relationship, if I'm trying to actually develop a great grounding, then you know what? It's incumbent upon me to be the one that says, hey, I'll invest first. Hey, I'll fill a room for you. Hey, I'll introduce you to somebody significant. Hey, I'll bring you to my live event. Hey, I will contribute in some way, shape, or form. And if I'm willing to do that first, honest to goodness, the universe unfolds. Now, here's the specific assignment. Oh, go back. Did I lose a slide? I think I did. It's okay. I'll just tell you what it is. Doesn't matter. The slides are for guidance for you, not for me. So the assignment is this. It is to use this psychological trigger and cue, which is this phrase: thank you, I have more than enough. what I want you to consider is this, is saying the words, thank you, I have more than enough, is a way in which we break the pattern of constriction. We break the pattern of trying to do less than. We break the pattern of, oh my goodness, is this too much? We just start having the message of, thank you, I have more than enough. You can use it when you pay your bills. You can use it when you make your JV payments. You can use it at any point in time because it actually creates a new neural network that begins to move us to abundance. So everyone here who is willing, and I'm going to ask you to do this literally for the next 2 weeks, that every single time you make an act of either giving or paying or contributing, that you send the message. You're just going to say it. You can say it out loud or you can say it to yourself. You're going to say the words, thank you, I have more than enough. And if you are willing to do that assignment for the next 2 weeks, and it sounds silly, but my friends, I promise you it'll lead to a breakthrough. If you're willing to do that assignment, I want you to give me a hell yeah, thank you, I have more than enough. So I want to know that you're going to be willing to do that. Now, clearly, what this leads to, if we are in this abundance mindset, it leads to this idea of relationships of contribution. Relationships of contribution. And I cannot say this loudly enough, that if you are going to win at this game, you are not thinking about just how you win, you are thinking about how we all win. And this whole thing orients around relationships. Joint ventures, in their most powerful form, are not transactional. They are relational. Okay? And that's, by the way, something to write down, because lots of people think that I can do this JV and I can make $7,000 bucks. Well, good for you. Or you can make 70 or you can make 700. But if that's all you think of it as, you're going to be in trouble. So I want to give you a couple of quick examples. And by the way, at this stage of the game, this whole idea of the abundance mindset, are there any specific questions you have about this way of being that is the prerequisite? Because you can't even get into the game in any reasonable manner without this foundation, without this ground. If there's any questions, you drop them in, and I'm happy to respond to them. Dave, I know that you've lived and breathed this for a great number of years. Is there anything you want to add to this? I'm totally thrilled to have any of your opinion, any of those pieces. So feel free to.
That's definitely good stuff there, Jay, for sure. I know I struggled with a few of those challenges as well, being a cheap bastard, basically, way back at the beginning. I had to get over that really, really quickly. Thankfully, I did. And then also just, really trying to put yourself in the shoes of the other person and seeing what's in it for them, what would make a joint venture attractive for that person, not just what's in it for me. So those are a few of my big takeaways.
Yeah. And I actually, I've come to believe this, Dave, and I appreciate you being straight about that, is I think I started a lot in that cheap bastard thing as well. I mean, like going way back when you and I first met, it's like I didn't really comprehend what it meant because I'd always done it on my own. Right. And my silly small thinking was, well, I could just sell it on my own or sell my own stuff and keep 100%. Why would I sell somebody else's stuff and take 50%? But I didn't comprehend a couple of key ideas, which is, number one, I didn't have to deliver the other stuff that I sold. Right. Number two, bringing other people in was a greater contribution to my tribe. And here's number three, and this is one that most people don't want to admit, and I'd love your opinion about it, is that our communities become deaf and blind to our messages.
Very true.
Most of the time, our clients, is like when they've sort of consumed or understood like 10% of what we can teach, most of them have this like, oh yeah, I know what Jay's going to talk about. He's going to talk about some joint venture bullshit, and it's like I know how to do that. And the reality is that at that point in time, they're already looking for something else. So why not be the conduit? Why not be the trusted advisor? Why not be the person that says, look, I'm not interested in selling you my stuff. I'm interested in helping you solve the problem. And if that means introducing you to Dave, or if that means introducing you to Jay, or if that means any of those sorts of things, I'm happy to do that because I care about you solving your problem. I don't care that much about selling you my crap. And when that shift happens, our audience opens and becomes far more receptive because they get it's like, look, this isn't about him selling stuff. This is about solving my problem. And when you get to that spot, man, it's different.
Very true. Yep. No, very well put. And I just want to remind everybody, even if you're not in the seminar business, even if you're not in the training business, even if you're not selling how-to information, all of this applies to brick and mortar businesses. All of this applies to real estate investing. You just have to kind of, plunk that into this framework that Jay's talking about, and it's exactly the same, right? I mean, so.
Yes. Well, let me give you an example, because I was speaking in Vancouver a couple of nights ago on this topic, and there was a bunch of brick and mortar retail businesses there, and it's like, oh, this isn't going to work for us. And it's like, that's bull. So one of my favorite examples is this. I have a client, they're husband and wife, and they actually own 3 love shops, or sex toy shops, or lingerie shops, or passion shops. I don't know what the heck you want to call them exactly, but they own 3 of them. And these are 2 of the coolest people on planet Earth that really take a stand for education, really take a stand for consciousness, really take a stand for everyone deserves to have pleasure, everyone deserves to have meaningful relationships, everyone deserves to get their needs met. Like, they're just brilliant. And they were having trouble with this idea. It's like, look, people judge us. People don't like our product. Some people won't let us advertise there. There's no way that we can do joint ventures. It's just not going to work. And I kept saying, it's like, that's not true. If we're going to talk about sexuality, is that if they're, other than eating and breathing, one thing that all of us as human beings share is a desire to have great sex. All of us. So it's like, we kept working. Now, here's where this landed, is that because of their strong education and their clarity in their relationship. So in Calgary, there's a place called the TELUS Spark Center, which is the science center. And almost every city, of decent size has a science center. So guess who their greatest JV partner is? They speak almost on a monthly basis at the science center about sexuality.
Really?
And yes, and are able to promote and give coupons and discounts and all sorts of things to the 3 stores, and TELUS, they make a contribution, a charitable contribution back to the science center. So here's what I always say to people. It's like, oh, I don't think it'll work for my bricks and mortar. If I can do it for a sex shop and a sort of government sort of funded science center, I can do it for anything. Anything.
That is a good example, buddy. Awesome.
And I use it because it's a little bit extreme, but I can give you a whole bunch as well of real estate. I've helped structure real estate JVs for raising money. I've helped structure real estate JVs in terms of some of the legal structures related to real estate. I've helped, I want you to understand that when you get the big idea of it, the mechanic by which it is going to be fulfilled can be in person, can be bricks and mortar, can be online, can be in a seminar or a workshop. Hell, it can be one-on-one in a coaching relationship. It could be anything. So my invitation for all of you is just to recognize, to not get worried about the mechanic yet. Get dedicated to applying these 3 ideas that I'm talking to you about, and then we will find a mechanic that works. And just to be very clear about this, the first one might not be a home run. The second one might not be a home run. But as you begin to put the pieces together and you understand who you have to be and who you need to connect with and who has your list of clients already, we will find a way. We always do. Does that make good sense?
Makes excellent sense to me, my friend.
Perfect. So let's jump into the next idea, which is relationships of contribution. And this is a picture. I don't know how many of you know who that is, but that's Justin Livingston. And Justin Livingston is a brilliant marketer. He's a brilliant educator, all of those pieces. They do 8 figures. They do strong 8 figures in the education, training, and joint venture space. Now, Justin has been one of my best and strongest JV partners through all of this process, from our Mastermind to Millions brand to our JVology brand to our Creators Code personal development brand. But this picture, by the way, is taken about 5 months before he was ever a JV partner. And this is this idea that I want you to understand. If you're sitting there going, like, well, my list is too small, or I don't know what I'm going to contribute, or there's nothing that they'd be interested in with me, I just want to call this out as clear as I can say and say that's bullshit, and it is small, limited thinking created by scarcity. Because here's what I want you to understand. If you've ever seen other pictures of Justin Livingston, I should actually have some contrasting pictures, because I'm about to mimic you. If you don't have your video screen on, just imagine me being very straight-faced. This is Justin Livingston, happy and excited and smiling.
Yeah, he's not a smiley guy naturally. I know Justin.
He is not as, exactly. Like, I mean, it's so bad, like, when we're at events and those sorts of things, there's a picture taken, like, I try and reach over and grab his ass to give him a goose, so at least he'll have an expression.
I got to be careful, because he's a UFC guy too, so he might, you know.
He is a UFC guy, that's true. But I think I can run faster. I might be wrong, but I'm willing to try. So here's what transpired, is that I happen to live a couple doors down from a couple of Flames and ex-Flame players. And when they made it to the playoffs a couple of years ago, I discovered that even though he lives in Vancouver, he does not like the Canucks, and he's a raving Calgary Flames fan. So as a deposit in the relationship, now please understand this, a deposit in the relationship, not as a quid pro quo, I'll get you tickets if you'll mail for me, you know, that bullshit, as a deposit in the relationship. I got playoff tickets, invited him to come down, took care of him, met him at the airport. We went and it was this first time in the Calgary, it was just the first time in the Calgary Saddledome, the first time that he had been at a Flames game in a playoffs there, all those things. And you might be able to tell from his face, he was a little bit pleased. Now, that might seem like an extreme example, but the part I want you to get is relationships of contribution simply means this. Every single person that you want to serve and support, or every single person that you'd like to do a JV with, there is something that they want, need, and value that is frankly usually way bigger than a couple of opt-ins on your email list. That is way bigger than a few $1,000 off a JV or a coupon campaign. That is there's something more significant. And if we can get to that piece, suddenly things change. And as you know, I don't know if I can say as a result of this deposit in this relationship, Justin became one of our best JV partners, but I can tell you for certain that even if he never became a great JV partner, we still maintained a great relationship and he continued to serve and support me in learning this process, that still would have been absolutely worth every bit of time, effort, and energy to call a kind, generous, brilliant guy like that my friend. Does that make sense, gang? So every single person. So I'm going to give you another quick example. So this is Ryan Levesque. He is a New York Times bestselling list author of Ask. And by the way, if any of you have not read Ask, for crying out loud, go get the book and read Ask. It is, I think, one of the most brilliant marketing books on planet Earth that shifts one-way conversations to two-way conversations that have our clients tell us what they want, need, and desire. It's absolutely powerful. So this is him speaking for me at my Mastermind to Millions live event where he shared a story. So this is, I'm sharing his story on his behalf. Now, there's a phrase, I don't know what it is, it just fell out of my brain. There's a phrase for adults who love Lego. I'm just going to make fun of Ryan for a little bit. Let's call them Lego psychos. That's not the right term, but there's actually a real term for this. There's an entire organization and conferences that are aimed at adults who are these Lego fanatics. So Ryan happens to be a Lego fanatic. He has two boys that their favorite activity together is building Lego. Now, as a result of scaling an incredible business, as a result of being on the New York Times bestsellers list, I think it was like for 9 months running, it was the #1 business book in 2016, deemed by Inc. magazine. Like he got some exposure, poquito. The poor guy inundated with ridiculous requests. And by the way, I forgot something here while we were talking about this. I don't know about any of you, but I get probably one a day, one every 2 days of somebody sending me a Facebook message or an unsolicited email that sounds a little bit like this. It's like, hi, you seem to be doing great work. I've been following you for ages, and I think that your list would be a fantastic match for my insert product here that has no relationship to your tribe. And I was hoping that you could mail that list because they would really love it because you'll get paid X and it'll be fantastic. And they make references that don't even make sense because they actually are just sending some bullshit mass mail piece. And if any of you have been getting any of those, give me a hell yes. So Ryan was inundated with those. I'm still inundated with those. And honest to God, gang, if you are doing that, stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Who was that crazy lady years ago with the infomercial, stop the insanity? I would say it differently. Stop the stupidity. That can't work. It's insulting and ridiculous. So that said, he's inundated, and then he gets a UPS package. And inside the UPS package is a nicely wrapped gift. That nicely wrapped gift is 4 custom Lego figurines, each designed and artwork on those sorts of things to look like Ryan, his wife, and his 2 kids. So that was a gift of contribution where somebody did a little bit of work, somebody cared a little bit and went the extra mile. And I mean, what a custom Lego figurine, 25 bucks. So for $100, he got past the hundreds, some perhaps thousands of requests, and actually made a deposit in the relationship. And guess what? Ryan featured him in the very next month in his next level mastermind group. That feature probably worth $250,000 plus or minus if they were reasonably well prepared for it. So the point that I'm trying to make here, and I'll give you one last example of this, which was something that somebody did for me for targeting. A gentleman named Frank Bria, he runs something called the High Ticket Summit. I get, and I don't really use Twitter or follow Twitter. I'm kind of a Twitter twit. It's the best way to put that. But I get a couple of notifications saying, like, hey, that's the coolest thing ever. And what they put a campaign together, and that campaign was this wanted campaign. And there was myself, Seth Godin, I think Ryan Levesque was on it. There was a whole bunch of high-level players that were targeted with this wanted ad because they wanted me to speak at their high-ticket summit. And what I want you to understand is that they were absolutely playing to this idea of influence. It's like I was totally honored and blown away to be on the same list as Seth Godin. I'm not in that same league in any way, shape, or form. But I got to tell you, I was incredibly flattered by it. But what they did that was so strategic was in positioning me in that domain, I wanted to serve and support and to play with them. And it turned out to be a fantastic JV. I still do work with Frank. He's a brilliant fellow. But these are examples of ways in which you can make deposits of relationships of significance that change the game. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands what we're talking about here, because if you think past the transaction of how big is your list and how many opt-ins and all of those pieces, if you think past that into how can I actually make a difference? How could I contribute something that is significant to the person that I want to serve and support with? How can I be courageous enough to go first with an abundance mindset? How can I actually make a difference? If you start from that foundation, everything else changes. Everything else changes. So I just want to pause here for a brief moment or two to see if there's any questions or comments or clarification about how the abundance mindset and the relationships of gratitude fit together. So brief moment for a quick pause. Just anything you want to ask, now is the time. Dave, do you want to comment or any of those sorts of things in terms of that whole piece of relationships? I'm open to any of your thoughts, of course.
Well, for the marketer in me just loves anything like that. So that whole campaign, whether buttering you up with the Twitter campaign there, that was very, very smart. What you did with Justin, brilliant. What that gentleman did with Ryan Levesque with the Legos, absolutely brilliant. Again, it's like you say, it's looking at things a little bit differently. Trying to figure out what the other person needs. So, for example, just a very small example from my life, nothing like that stuff. I remember a good friend of mine commented about a certain kind of travel suitcase that I had when we were traveling around somewhere at some point. Just said he really liked it. It was kind of cool. So I remember that. The next time I saw him, I brought him one of those suitcases and just gave it to him as a gift. And absolutely, it wasn't a over-the-top expensive gift. It was just something thoughtful that showed that there was a little bit of a detail there. Just simple things, a simple handwritten thank you note or a little note of appreciation nowadays in the mail, actually handwritten, is so uncommon that it's mind-boggling for most people. So it doesn't have to be over-the-top huge for it to actually stand out.
Yeah, and I want to just emphasize, over the top is unnecessary. Thoughtful and meaningful based on somebody's values, off the charts. A dear friend of mine, Kristen Schiffer-Thompson, and she's done a bunch of JV stuff with us. So I usually, honest God, I always look like in a photograph, I look like I'm having an aneurysm. And it's because my mouth is always talking, I'm always like, and I mean, that's every picture. Like, and we have professional photographers who's just like, you would talk for 3 days and I got a half-assed picture of you. So I was speaking on her stage and she got a picture that I actually liked. So she sent it to me in a little frame. Nice. And it's like, there's just not very many, like, what did that cost her? $14 bucks? And I mean, most stuff I don't give a rat's ass about, but it's like, hey, I don't appear to be having an aneurysm that very moment. I'm going to keep that one. You know, it's those little thoughts that make all the difference. So here's the assignment, gang. And this is an important assignment. We're just going to get back to this abundance process. This is the idea of thank you, I have more than enough. I want you to carry this forward into this. And I want you to, and it depends where you're at in the process. So I'm going to put both of these up at the same time. Is that if you were to explore your current top 10 existing partners, and I want you to put fingers to keyboard, pen to paper, and I want you to do this while I'm talking about it because we've got to get moving and shaking along here. If you choose your top 10 existing partners, if you don't have your top 10 existing partners, I would ask you to actually rethink that for a moment or two, because it might be a spouse, it might be a family member, it might be a supplier, it might be a customer, it might be somebody who's just given you a referral that you never paid for. But I will, if you are in business, you actually have JV partners, whether you're seeing it that way or not. But make your top 10 list of existing partners, and I want you to also set your sights on your top 10 soon-to-be partners. So who would you like to establish a relationship? Who would you like to make a contribution to? Who has the list and the access, the stage, the platform, the Facebook group, the email list of people that are exactly right for you? So, you know, I know there's a bunch of real estate investors on this line. So who's been actively building a list, you know, in our community in that domain? Gentleman Andrew Resmer out of Vancouver. He's done something like 12,000 deals, most of which with no money down. Mike Wolf, who I think he's done like 6,000 transactions in just Atlanta alone in the last 2 years, and has been speaking and scaling and building communities. They are everywhere. The list of people you're looking for already exists. It is compiled, and somebody is sitting there going, what would be a good use of this list? That is the reality right now. So I want you to make that list, and I'm going to trust that you just get as far as you can, and I'm going to keep us moving along. And here's a little sidebar to this, is if, number one, you don't have at least 10 on those two things, my friends, you need to do more work in the domain of joint ventures. You need to build more relationships, you need to get to more events, you need to engage with more people who are thinking in this manner, because this list of 20 people, and I don't care if you're selling $12 widgets or if you're selling $250,000 houses, this list of 20 people is worth 7 figures in the next 12 months if you know what you're doing. Now, I'm going to say that again because most people don't believe it. Your top 10 existing partners, your top 10 soon-to-be partners. This list is worth 7 figures in the next 12 months. Honestly, even if you do it half-assed well, even if you do it half-assed well, and if you do it really well, good Lord, the sky's the limit. So I'm going to assume that you've got that list or as much of your list. And actually help me out here, gang, in terms of timing, because we've got to get hustling here. Help me out on this idea, which is how many of you have 10 on both lists? If you've got 10 on both lists, type down both. If you've got 10 on existing, type down existing. If you've got 10 on soon-to-be, type down 10 on soon-to-be. Or if you're stuck, just type in stuck. I'd like to get a sense of where you're at with this. Now, while you're doing that, here's what your assignment is. Your assignment is this, is to take the top 3 on each. And by the way, I'd love for you to do the entire top 10, but I want you to start in the next 7 days. You're going to start with the top 3 and make a decision about what you are going to contribute to them from a space of abundance. What are you going to contribute to them from a space of abundance? Now, again, it need not be expensive. It could be a cheap photo of somebody who's not having an aneurysm. It could be tickets to a great event. It could be comping them into an educational process. It could be inviting them along to a play. It could be buying them a Kindle of a topic that's interesting. It could be getting them a piece of luggage. I don't care what it is, but I seriously want you to get yourself wrapped around this idea of joint venturing as a game of I'll go first. Abundance is the foundation upon which all of this works, and I have more than enough so I can contribute to my top 10 existing partners, I can contribute to my top 10 soon-to-be partners, and make this a part of my strategy.
Love these I love these exercises, Jay. These are fantastic. Yeah, that's for sure.
And you know what? They just work. It's one of those things. And sometimes I see people, and I appreciate you saying that, Dave, because sometimes I see people saying, it's like, oh, yeah, I'll get to that. Oh, yeah, I knew that. It's like, I don't give a shit what you know. I give a shit what you're doing, who you are being. Because the knowledge of this means exactly this, and that's how much you'll earn with it. The execution of this will put money in your bank. Every time. Every time. So answers. Stuck, soon to be, 2 existing, 12 soon to be, working on my list. Okay, fantastic. So I'm just going to keep moving on because we're getting short on time, and I want to give you an invitation to something momentarily. So here is, and this is homework, and I want you just to be clear about this. And we're moving into, obviously, the monetization piece. So this is the third circle. So we've got at the top, abundance. We've got relationships of contribution and connection. And now we have this idea of what is my motive? Am I at list building? Am I at raising my influence? Am I at monetization? And I'm going to move us towards monetization simply because in your feedback, when we ask the question, that's where most of you were. So I think the biggest issue where most people fall flat or have marginal results in the JV space is that they don't have a strategy. They sort of hit and miss some JVs. It's like, hey, that seems like an interesting product. Jeff Walker is doing the product launch formula. I read the book. I like it. Maybe my list would buy some of that. That is not the way to go about JVs. It absolutely is not. So here's what I want you to think about. And I'm going to go through this quickly. What's your JV income goal? And this can be, there's lots of ways to do this. You can just simply pick a number. So I want to make $100,000 a year in JVs. Fine. I want to make $1 million a year. Fine. But you could start smaller than that. You could start with like, look, I just want JVs to pay for my car payment. I want JVs to cover my mortgage payment. I want JVs to take me and my family on a Disney cruise, which, by the way, you might have to do a year of JVs for that. Disney knows how to charge. Or it could be, you know what, I've accumulated some debt in some way, shape, or form. And that could be school, that could be a business project. I'm going to clear off my debt. But what I want you to understand is that if we start from this perspective, I'm just going to scribble here for a brief moment. If we start from this perspective, and I'm going to suggest that any of you here, if you're not already doing 100K in JVs, that's your first goal. Like, let's just get $100,000 a year coming in on a consistent and regular basis. So that, of course, is going to be somewhere, I always like to round up because things don't always go the way we want. So that's $9,000 a month, or it could be just a couple of projects. So if you think of it from this perspective, is that now you've got to start thinking about how many JV projects are we talking about? Is that I'm going to do 1 a month and I'm going to hope to sell 9 units at $1,000? Or is it I'm going to do, a quarterly event, and in that quarterly event, each of those things is going to generate, somewhere in the neighborhood of 25K? I don't care how you do it, but I do want you to start putting some thought into what would this really take for me to go from whatever my JV income now is up to 100K. And by the way, if that's way too low for you, then pick something higher. I'm just using an example to get you thinking about this. But you have to, please hear this, you have to build it into part of your strategy for your business. Okay. And by the way, one of our little catchphrases for our live events that we do in this whole world is called "We Are Better Together." So the next piece is, what is your JV partner strategy? And I want to do this really clearly for you, because once you figure out your goal, I don't know how many of you have ever tried to do a JV with somebody who's just starting out, and often it's kind of a little bit like the blind leading the blind. So your first partner strategy is to learn how to be a great partner. If your program isn't already, if you don't have a proven conversion strategy, then don't worry about that. But get behind other people, exactly as I did for 2 years, leading into what people say is like the big win. So whose offer aligns with you? And next piece is, once their offer aligns, who has proven conversions? Who do you know if you send them to something, they will actually sell and convert for you? One of the key questions I always ask is, who has continuity? Like, if your goal is I want to do $8,000 a month, well then what about something that has a program, and that could be software like ClickFunnels, that could be Infusionsoft is a great JV partner of mine. That it doesn't matter what it is, but I always am looking for continuity, so it is something that I can build in. Now here's a big one. Whose event do you want to attend and why? Because here's the thing, you meet the best JV partners at events. So if you can get to an event where you are featured, where you can get to an event where you can sponsor, where you can get to an event where somebody says, oh, hey, and my friend Bob, if you can get into that spot, you build influence, and the power and the conversion is off the charts when you do that. So what's your JV strategy? Because if you can figure out what the partner strategy is that's going to match to your dollar and cent goal, honest to goodness, we're like halfway there. Now, the next piece is this, and this is the part where people fall apart all the time, and this is one of the things where we train people about how to do this really well. What is your execution strategy? And this all comes up in one fell swoop. Here's the big thing. How can you integrate their offer into your business and content strategy? So if, for example, you are a real estate investor, how do you integrate somebody's offer, whether they are a real estate agent, whether they are an advertiser, whether they are a contractor, whether they are a yard maintenance company, whether they are a hang the Christmas lights, how do you integrate their offer seamlessly into your business and content strategy? Justin Livingston is just an artist at that. He just did it with Ryan Levesque. That was completely off the charts brilliant. They did an online quiz. They shared it with their listeners and said, hey, do you want to learn how to do what I just did with you? And he knocked it out of the park on their launch. The next piece is this. If you're going to be a JV partner, how do you pre-pave the way? How do you start talking, modeling, sharing, highlighting, having conversations about what you want to share 6 weeks before, 8 weeks before, 10 weeks before, so that just becomes a part of the conversation when it comes time. It's like, hey, and I have an opportunity for you to work with my friend Dave because he's brilliant at this. The next piece is how can you incentive bonus people to buy, attend, and share? And the last is a cart close strategy, which is bonuses. And here's something that I just have to share really quickly. This sounds crazy, but if you're going to play in this joint venture world, people buy for bonuses. And this is not just online, by the way. People buy for bonuses. So I'm going to go back to the sex shop and the TELUS, the Science Center, is that the bonuses that they would give were these little coupons. And the coupons gave them a discount, but it also gave them a free toy. So, but you couldn't get the toy at the Science Center. You actually had to get into the store. And here's what my clients have discovered and found out and what we've worked on, is that people have a stigma about walking through the doors of one of those stores. But if they can walk through the doors of one of the stores and they see that there's actually these normal human beings who are actually just trying to help you figure out what's right for you and your partner and your loved one and all those sorts of things, and that we just get to have this very normal conversation that isn't much different than talking about and ordering a coffee, once they do that, they just come back forever. So that kind of bonus piece is where the game is won or lost. So those three pieces, my friends, when you put those together, are absolutely game-changing and powerful. So on that note, I want to just pause again to see if there's anything else I can answer about those three pieces, because the top of the list is what's the goal? The next piece, actually I'll just move it back so you can actually see it because I don't want you to lose this. So the first part is what is your income goal? So just pick a number, whatever's meaningful to you. What's your JV partner strategy? And how are you going to actually choose the people you're going to work with? And then the last piece is, what's your execution strategy? And if you put all those pieces together, this whole idea of we are better together will rock your world. Gang, anything I can answer or clarify for you? Or anything you want to add to that, Dave?
I'm taking notes here, and I just realizing myself I've been not as well organized as I sure as heck could have been. So thank you very much for putting a framework around this. I kind of like what we're doing tonight. Is interesting what you're talking about, Jay, because you know when we connected through our mutual friend DJ, I thought I've really been promoting a lot of real estate stuff over the last several years, and this applies to real estate, but it's also much broader than that. So I really thought this would be a good fit for my people. Plus, like you say, shake it up, because they're they've heard my stuff 8 ways to Sunday. They probably think they've heard it all from me. So hearing something from you that I've talked about in the past, but a different angle on it, a different twist on it, is hugely valuable. So that's how it's not just win-win. It's win-win-win. It's a win for you. It's a win for me. But most importantly, it's a win for the people that are getting the content and the training. That's what sometimes people forget.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get that. And Rob is not asking Sharon any questions. So here's what I want to do is I want to, and what do you see on the screen right now? Just because I was jumping around here a little bit.
Where to find and meet great joint venture partners.
Perfect. So I wasn't sure if I was still sharing the screen or not, because we're going to jump around a little bit just to end on time here again. So here's to me the key piece that really makes a difference in monumental ways. And the key piece is this: if you're going to do JVs, you've got to do JVs in a meaningful way. We're going to have a little bit of fun. Mary Frances, come in. So, by the way, you have to come around this way. So here's for fun and entertainment. My dear friend Mary Frances, say hello.
Hello.
Just brought me wine.
That's called a good JV
Yes,
partner.
exactly. It is a good JV partner.
That's the number one requirement, isn't it?
Yes, and Dave just said hello. So,
hello.
So we're just wrapping up here, but
Awesome.
this is a good example of somebody who is going the extra mile because she came to my house and I was going to go to her house to actually do our next interview. So anyway, I just want to say thank you and introduce you.
We've got some brand new non-JV people curious about the conversation, so.
That would be very
All
cool.
right.
Thank you, my dear. I appreciate that. And on that note, this is going to get cut short because I'm going to go drink wine. No.
I'll go grab another beer. There you go.
But here's the part that I want you to be perfectly clear about, is that the online approach is, I don't think, 2% as effective as meeting people in person. Now, meeting people in person is, I think, at least 100 times more effective than just trying to send an email to somebody. But here's the real magic, and this is where our explosive growth, you know, what people deem to be so quickly, what our explosive growth was I didn't just go to events to meet people. I went to events that were oriented around the joint venture conversation. I went to events that taught people best practices. I went to events where I got to stand up on stage and say, hey, I'm willing to support anyone who wants to come to Calgary and I'll put you on a stage. I got to go to events where I got to be featured and I got to ask questions, well, I don't understand why that's working. And that's why this whole thing of the top of the list is where to find and meet great joint venture partners at live events, specifically about joint ventures, in mastermind groups, in Facebook groups, referrals from other partners, in joint venture communities. And those are the hot spots. And if you're going to do joint ventures, what it really does mean is you're going to need to get out of your house, out from behind your computer, get on the car, on a plane, whatever the case may be, and go to the places where the people are. And I just cannot say that clearly enough. So I'm going to just jump to another quick slide here. In our live event, JVology Live, we spend an inordinate amount of time on this, how to approach potential JV partners. But it's all of the things I've already said, so I'm just going to scan through this. You get all of these pieces, build relationships, and provide value to them and contribute first. I mean, those are the biggies. We'll talk more about that. But I do want to talk about the biggest mistakes really quickly. So the biggest mistakes is this: never getting started. Lack of belief. And that lack of belief, please understand this, I don't care what the story you have around it, the lack of belief is actually driven by scarcity, fear, lack, and pain. I don't want to be turned down. I don't want to fail. I don't want to fall on my face. What if they say no? All of that stuff. That's brutal, and it needs to be eliminated from our heart, minds, and souls. People think they need this big list. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. And if you are suffering from list envy, sorry, some of the jokes, just me again. If you're suffering from list envy, then here's your task. You need to get building your list. And starting with JVs is one of the best ways under the sun. It took me 2 years to build an opt-in list of 1,800 people. When I got really behind JV partners, it took me 3 weeks to add 12,000 people. So JVs are the route to do this. So the solution is to get engaged with it. You know, I don't know anyone, I don't have enough influence, I don't know what to say or how to reach out. They're unwilling to put their ass on the line and go first. They lack the clarity on the referral tracking softwares and the technology to make this easy. By the way, even if it's bricks and mortars, there's a bunch of very simple technologies that can take care of that for you. Or they don't have an offer that converts. Or they're confused about how much should I pay, what's fair, what's not fair, am I being a cheap ass, how can I incent with prizes? Or they just don't have the training and support to make sense of this. And that, my friends, is the biggest issue under the sun. Oh, go back. That, my friends, is the biggest issue on the sun. And that's why, you know, what I want to do is this, is I want to invite you to come and hang out with me, hang out with Doug, hang out with Rob at our event called Mastermind, not Mastermind 2 Millions, that's the video I showed you, JVology Live. And that event addresses every single one of these mistakes. Now, what I want to do is this, is I want you to get a sense of what that event is like. And for whatever reason, it didn't. I thought we just played that. Let me just try it one more time. Here we go. Come on, the machine is now giving me a little bit of a hard time.
how to build a JV, having a structure. And what I'm really leaving with is a JV is all about relationship.
When people think of them, sometimes they think, oh, you have to mail each other's lists and it's just how many people and it's all this numbers game, but it's really not.
JVs are one of the best ways to grow your business just because you can't do it all on your own. You can do so much more in a much shorter period of time, and is really the key step to taking your business just to the next level.
If you've never done joint ventures, you know nothing about it, you're going to have your mind blown here.
I was blown away by JVology. I have learned so much. What was big for me was the way that Josh and Jay broke down the process from start to finish. Not only was it talking about the course, but it was talking about how to reach out to JV partners, how to structure the offer, what motivates people, the technology pieces. I mean, everything is included in this.
All the different pieces that I need to kind of have in place and ready to present and ready to make easy so that it's just simple for the person I'm asking to support.
Between the talks and the content, just having the time to actually just sit down with people and talk with them, really, if anything, that's probably the more valuable component.
You almost instantly become friends with everybody here.
The people that are here are ready to work with you. They're ready to help you make money. They want to make money. I'll be selling some of their stuff. They're selling my stuff. Like, great return on my investment. You could be coming out of this event with potentially an extra $60,000 or $70,000 in your pocket just because of that time that's scheduled in between the extra content.
Business-wise, I leave with 2 speaking agreement, a webinar agreement that I'll be there as a guest.
While I was here, I was making deals right and left. I think I'm walking away with 3 different JV partners with specific launch dates. So this is not as hard as I thought it was. And I'm walking away from the event with JV partners in hand, ready to go.
And leaders always set the tone for an event. And because they come from such a giving heart, so that's all we wanted to do, is to give to one another.
Just learning from Jay and Joshua, it's cool because there's a different dynamic from each of them, getting the mindset, but then combining it with, like, this is what it actually looks like on a tangible level. And it's just a perfect marriage of the two. It was very collaborative. It wasn't a lecture type of environment. I felt like they were talking with me and not at me.
I thought that Josh, he's very charming on stage. He's really knowledgeable, super technical. One thing that I really know truly about Jay is that he cares about what he's doing. He cares about the people that he's putting here, and he wants to make sure that he's really supporting them in every single way possible. He wants, I believe, success for me as much as he wants success for himself.
Both really smart guys, real genuine, real authentic. I just thought it was phenomenal. I mean, these guys are at the top of their game. They're teaching us exactly the steps that they took to get here. So, great event.
To learn how to build a relationship and meet amazing people, come to this event.
It's the best relationship building event I have ever been at.
Now, as they've told us here, together we're better.
So that gives you an idea of what the event is. And I want to just let you know that there's nothing, please hear this, nothing like it in the universe. And I'm going to go through a couple of key points here and stuff you already know. So it's the art and science of this. You already know that. Why joint venturing with people is one of the fastest ways. A multitude of ways to joint venture. Even if you don't have a list, even if you're not online, even if it is just bricks and mortar, we will go through all of those pieces. We'll teach you a bunch of the top places to find partners, but the honest truth is you will leave with partners there. And that might be you supporting them or them supporting you. You will learn what it means to be a great JV partner. So on that note, I'm just going to go through a couple of these things. The big idea, how to confidently approach your ideal joint venture partner. We actually teach a process where you actually pitch at the event. So you'll have an opportunity to work through what we call a JV offer. You'll have an opportunity to invite people to participate. You will practice it. You'll get feedback at it, and it actually generates real partners. We'll practice how to actually get big names on your side, because the truth of the matter is sometimes one big name is worth 20 or 30 smaller names. And we'll talk about the different types of joint venture partners and what their motivation structure is. Because if you know what their motivation structure is, it's so much easier to get them to a yes. Now, you're also going to have a ton of fun, and there's going to be a whole bunch of engaging prizes and promotions. And here's the thing I want you to understand. is that one of the ways in which we teach what it means to be a great JV partner is we actually have a little mini launch that you get to participate in. And we actually pay 50% commission, so there's $100 that gets handed out on the table. There's a leaderboard, there's prizes. It's our intention to pay out over $10,000 at the event, and that doesn't include prizes worth another about $10,000. So the truth of the matter is that you can actually make money, earn while you learn, and have a shitload of fun doing it, which is just one of the things we have a ton of fun with. And we'll talk about conversion processes, how to use online to convert joint venture traffic, and that can be heading towards a visit to a store, that can be heading towards a digital product, that can be booking an online coaching process, that can be getting somebody on a real estate tour, you name it, we'll do all of it. So here's how this looks in terms of, let's talk about money, because much of the motivation for joint ventures is money. So the regular ticket price for JVology Live is $997. Now that gets you access to the main event, gets you access to all the breakout sessions, and you will have, that would be the best money in terms of ROI that you spend your entire year. That said, we're here with Dave. We are currently in the early bird pricing, which I believe ends in like 12 hours or some crazy thing like that. And you can get a ticket for JVology Live, the entire experience, for $197, which is frankly on the edge of batshit crazy. That said, there's also the opportunity to come VIP. And whenever I go to events, this is about relationships, it's about connecting with the right people. I always say, for crying out loud, just go VIP. So that includes the regular ticket, plus you get fed on all 3 days. Those are the lunches. You get a VIP reception the evening before. You get bonus sessions over the VIP lunch. You get preferred seating. You also get preferred access when we're doing the JV invitations of getting on stage and being able to communicate with all of the crew instead of just necessarily your smaller table. And another special surprise we don't roll out until it's there, but it's well worth it. And instead of that being $14.97 while we're on early bird, that's only $397. Now, just to put that in perspective, your lunches cost me like $210, and the wine for the VIP and the food and all those sorts of things the night before, frankly, you should just go VIP. You'd be crazy not to. So that is the offer, and it is stunning. But because Dave was kind enough to share his tribe with us, there's some additional incentives. And by the way, to register, it's as simple as this. Just go to jvologylive.com/Dave. So jvologylive.com/Dave. The video that's on the page is the video I just played, so you don't have to play that. Just pause that and then go and do your piece. So jvologylive.com/Dave. Now, I want to share some bonuses with you. And this whole thing that I was saying to you, like people buy for bonuses, that point is not lost on me, and I am 1,000% thrilled to give you a bribe to get you to say yes to getting out from behind the computer, into your car, perhaps on a plane, and get to JVology Live. By the way, it's in Vancouver, August 11th through 13th. We're at the Pinnacle Harbourfront. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful hotel. And yeah, there's the thing, jvologylive.com/Dave, and I know that Rob has put the link in the chat window, so just click on the link, it'll take you there. Now, I want to incent you, and I'm totally open to bribing you. I bribe my kids, I am not above bribing you. So here's what you will get when you register tonight. Whether this is the regular ticket at $197 or the VIP ticket at $397, both of which are the early bird, you will also get the 14-day JV Success Roadmap Program. Now what that is it's a daily email, a little video, and a little action that is designed for you to, number one, get your head and heart in the right spot to get maximum value out of this event. It is designed for you to set strategy and to get momentum so that when you get to the event, you are ready to get behind people that you align with. You are ready to make JV invitations. You know exactly what strategy you're pursuing, whether that's list building, whether that's influence building, whether that's monetization, whether it's a combination thereof. And that 14-day program is very reasonably priced at $497. You also, in that program, get 2 live coaching prep calls that are designed to help you apply and implement those assignments that you've been getting in the roadmap program. So you get a real live coach, somebody who knows what JVs are, people that have been working with me in JVs for years, stepping you through that process, answering your questions. That's also $497. Now, here's one of the things. My other brand is Mastermind to Millions Live. For people who register on this process, you will get a pre-event mastermind. Now, this is the day before. This is Thursday night from 4 to 6. It is a 2-hour mastermind where I facilitate a mastermind experience, me and my team, for you to get really clear about the support that you desire, about the partners that you want, about the objective for your weekend. And that mastermind, honest to goodness, I have people say all the time, it's like, that was my pack my bags moment. I got everything that I paid for right here, and the event hasn't even started yet. So we do a stunningly great job of that. And you will get an instant access to a JV masterclass done by my dear friend and business partner, Joshua David Hayward. And it is how to find and approach ideal JV partners, and in great depth and detail. We've sort of touched the highlight. We're talking about what is the strategy, what do you say, how do you say it, when do you say it, and all of those bonuses are worth $1,988. And when you register tonight at jvologylive.com/Dave, you get your VIP ticket if you bought VIP, you get the regular ticket if you buy the regular ticket, both of which are on the early bird piece, and all of these. So that's the invitation, my friends, and what I can tell you is this: it will be the highest ROI investment you make in your business all year. I guarantee it. I absolutely guarantee it. You come there, you do all of the prep work, you follow through, you will leave with JV Partners booked. You will leave with wisdom and experience and strategy that will, well, it's how we made 7 figures, strong 7 figures in 14 months. And you will leave with all of those pieces in place. So that is... I have a floating glass of wine coming into my office. Yes, you could twist my arm. You can't come up here and just wave it without pouring stuff.
Or for more, oh my goodness, for more, you have to come downstairs.
I'll be there in 2 shades. Dave, anything you want to add to that, or comment to that, or share? Because I know that you're going to come and hang out with us, and I really look forward to that.
I'm definitely excited about that. I was looking through everything that's involved and included in the program. Fantastic. I love what you're doing before we even get to the event. Very, very, a huge value add right there. So I'm just going to open things up. If anybody's got any questions or concerns or anything like that, go ahead, type them in the question box. I know you're going down there in 2 shakes, but I'm going to hold you for about 3 or 4 minutes.
I'm here to answer questions. They're still setting up technology, and we're totally fine. They're just plying me with wine.
We're starting to loosen up, so there you go. We're definitely getting the real deal from Jay here, right? Because we've plied him with alcohol.
Always. Even without it, you still get the real deal, whether you like it or not.
Okay, so if it's okay with you, Jay, I'm just going to, while we're getting some questions coming in, I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Yep.
And come up with all the BS objections I ever hear when I'm inviting people out to events, and they come up with all the excuses why they can't come or won't come or what have you. So bottom line, I think this is a fantastic event. I'm going to invest my time and my money to attend this event as well. Highly recommend that you do. These are the kind of things, like Jay said, that just one connection, one idea, one connection from an event like this can make all the difference. I might as well get my webcam going here as well, just so we're back online there.
That way I can cheers your beer.
There you go. Well, I ran out of beer. I don't have any floating beers coming down here. So somebody's going to say, okay, that sounds great. Vancouver's not in my neck of the woods. We've got people from across the country. When are you going to be coming to a city near me? That's something that we can be hearing.
Yeah. So great question. And number one, I would say never. And why I say never, that isn't an entirely truthful answer, but the essence of that question is really around this idea of when is it going to be more convenient and cost me less in terms of my time and travel. And it's a silly question. And I'm not trying to demean the question, but it's a silly question when we compare the investment in terms of the dollars and cents and the time for the reward. Because here's the honest God truth. I don't care where you are on planet Earth right this very second. If I said to you, give me $1,000 and I'll give you back $10,000, would you find a way to get to my house to do that?
Most likely. Most likely. Now, the other thing is, don't you usually do these events in the States?
Yes. In fact, San Diego, Las Vegas, Phoenix are our primary locations. And this is only the 2nd event in 4 years of this nature in Canada. So the reality is this, is that you might want to come to Vegas or all those sorts of things, but the key piece is do not postpone the leverage of joint ventures in your business. This is the oak tree example. And I've said this to a multitude of people. So I've been in business for myself for almost 30 years. And the honest to goodness truth is, through joint ventures, I now earn more money in a weekend than I used to make in 2 years.
Wow.
Okay. And if I knew what I knew now, if I knew that 25 years ago, what would transpire would be unbelievably, radically, and dramatically different. Like, not to the degree of hundreds of thousands, but to the degree of tens, perhaps hundreds of millions. So whenever somebody's trying to pause, that whole process, like, can I do it later? You can, but it's insane. And if I had a magic wand where I could go back in time, that would be the fundamental change I would make. I would have started my business using JVs and exclusively sticking to JVs, because it is that game changing.
All right, sounds good. Another objection that might be, or another question in people's mind might be, well, Jay sounds very interesting, sounds value packed. If it's so great, why is it so inexpensive? And the secondary question would be, and does that mean that it's just going to be a big pitch fest of a bunch of other stuff while we're there?
Yes, great question. So 3 things to this is that the cost is one of the pieces that at the beginning of the JV process, I don't really want a whole variety of things to get in the way of this. The reality is this: attracting the right community and putting people who are dedicated JVs is more valuable than what I can make at the door. And the truth of the matter is, in complete transparency, is that basically every single JVology event I do, I add 50 to 125 people to my JV list. So part of my monetization is when people understand and get the entire process, and they go, wait a second, there's somebody I believe in, there's somebody that delivers, there's somebody that I end up with a whole bunch of JV partners. So that's part of how I actually earn my income and actually monetize these pieces. But the other part of this is it is not a pitch fest. I am a teacher and a trainer. That is my 30-year history. But we're teaching JVs, and there will be JV presenters there. But every JV presenter is somebody who, number one, I work with, meaning that I've done business with and I like, know, trust, all of those pieces. And they bring a bit of information, they bring a skill set that is designed to help you solve a problem. And if you want to act with them, act with them. If you don't want to act with them, don't act with them. But every single one of them teaches like mad and then says, hey, if you want to do something with me, come do it. It's all good, and you choose what that's going to be. So we have people who are experts in webinars. We have people who are experts in finance and how to actually take care of your money. We have people who are experts in the technology. So you'll hear from 3 other people over those 3 days. So it's not like, this isn't like, one of those things where every 45 minutes there's somebody selling some crap. You'll hear from 3 additional people other than me over those 3 days, and they are going to bring you incredibly powerful teaching and an opportunity to do something with them. If you do it, great. If you don't, that's fine too.
All right, good. Very, very good. So is this going to be one of those really huge events with 3, 4, 5, 800 people at it, or is it a little bit small? What are we looking at?
We're more intimate, and the reason that we like to keep these things more intimate is that we want time and bandwidth for you to truly get to know one another. And there's another organization in this realm that generally has 300 to 500 people at them. And while that sounds great, it's like there's that many people that I can JV with. While it sounds great, the truth is people get lost.
Yeah.
And you don't connect with all the people. So what we like to do is we're somewhere between the 75 and the 125 range. At that number, I know everybody's name. I know everybody's story. I know what's going on, and I can help facilitate those conversations. And it's highly experiential because we're not talking at you, which means that you're at tables practicing your JV invitation. You're at tables understanding and applying how you actually practice the conversation with a big player. So you get to know everyone. We do hot seats where if you have a particular issue, we'll put you on the stage and we'll deal with your particular solution and then translate people for how this actually works for you in your business. So our degree of intimacy is quite powerful, and it's what people say to us is like, I've gone to that thing a couple of times, and I did more business here in 3 days than I've done in 2.5 years being a member of that other organization. So it's intimacy is a big part of getting a great JV partner.
Sounds good. All right. And so again, if you got any questions, concerns, objections, go ahead, type them in the question box. I'll ask them on your behalf. One last question for me. So again, a lot of the examples that you've been using tonight, Jay, have been, working with Justin Livingston and working with different people in the information marketing type world, Christian Michelson, all these kind of people that not everybody on my list is familiar with. So how much of this is really going to be applicable to A, the average small business guy or gal, or B, the average kind of bread and butter type real estate investor type person that's looking for investors or joint venture partners in the sense of bringing deals together, those kind of things. They're not so concerned about opt-in email lists and all that kind of thing, at least on the outset. How applicable is this really to those kind of people?
Well, I fervently believe 100%. And I use the examples of the sex shop, but Andrew Resmer, the real estate fellow, Mike Wolf, they are both members of my JV community. They have both come and both raised money and put deals together in these events and environments. And if Stefan Armio is also a member of this community, and by the way, you may or may not like any of them in that domain, but I'm just telling you that 3 significant, strong 7-figure players play in my JVology community because it works and because it applies not just there, but everywhere. This is a way of thinking about structuring business and building relationships of people that care about your particular results. And it doesn't matter what it is, that applies. And I just can't say that clearer. And we'll map that out. You'll have exercises, activities, and workshop type processes to work those things out.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that answers my questions. I just had a few comments in here, people saying great question, that kind of stuff. So it looks like I kind of answered or asked some of the questions that people had on their mind. So that's good. Again, highly recommend it. It's coming up. What are the dates again, Jay?
It is August 11th through 13th. And gang, I just want to really reiterate, and I don't suggest this, but you could do this. If you want to just learn this idea of JVing, is that there are people who buy this program for the bonuses and don't necessarily make it to the event. Even at the regular ticket price, or even if you did the VIP, the bonuses are worth more than that ticket by a far cry, like by 10 times. Now, I still want you to get your ass to the event because that's where you're going to actually meet people. That's where you're going to cut deals. That's where you're going to put things together. But in all seriousness, when we are done tonight, then these bonuses go away and they don't come back. So if you are even in the hint of, playing with joint ventures, this is a must-do. This is an absolute must-do. And the only thing I should tell you, one other thing, is that Mary Frances, who just brought me my wine, she came to the first JVology event, became a client of mine that we're doing a bunch of processes with. She's coming back to the event not because of the content, she knows the content, but because of the people. Mm-hmm. And $197 or $397 to meet 65 or 70 great people doesn't get better than that.
Definitely.
And on that note, my friends, click the button, jvologylive.com/Dave. Get yourself registered and let us serve and support you to build the business that you desire. Because the very last thing that I want to say, and this is one of my favorite quotes in the universe, and this, that guy who did the wanted poster in terms of all the rest of it, when I was finished at the summit, this is what he said, was one of the quotes from my interview, which is this: in the absence of support, environment always wins. So what we need to do is we need to get you into environments that support the evolution of your joint ventures. That's what this event does. So you got to do it. Come see us, hang out with us. We'll have a ton of fun. And Dave and I are going to enjoy having a little bit of entertainment, so come play.
Sounds like fun. I'm going to be there going VIP. Definitely recommend that you do as well. Look forward to seeing you there, Jay, as well as meeting Rob in person and the whole gang. And I hope you guys take action and do what you need to do to be at this event. It's definitely going to be worth your while. All right, Jay, thank you very much for the presentation. It's a real pleasure. And thank you much.
I truly appreciate it.
And we'll wrap things up right here. All right.
I appreciate you being here, and thank you, my friend.
Have a good one. Enjoy the wine.
You too. All right. Bye-bye.